What did you do with the body?
We stuck him in a hole and filled the hole in, as one does.
Whereabouts was that?
Casino, New South Wales.
Can you be more specific? Do you
Casino,
remember?
New South Wales. I'm not going to go and dig it up for you. I couldn't dig it up for you myself. I would forget. It was bloody somewhere near a bloody football oval. Somewhere near a football oval. Yeah, about 50 feet away from a football oval on the other side of a big mound of bloody dirt. That's all I remember.
Do you reflect on that at all? I mean, his son told police he was missing, reported him missing. There's a family there looking for a dad who's no longer around. Any remorse, any sort of reflection on that?
No, none at all. None at all. None at all. Absolutely none at all. No, none at all.
What does it feel like to kill someone?
Didn't feel anything at all. Nothing. Nothing.
An adrenaline rush?
No, didn't feel a thing. No. I didn't get no adrenaline rush, nothing.
Fear?
No, nothing. No sense of fear. No sense of foreboding or anything like that, nothing. No.
Sense of power?
No sense of power, nothing like that at all. No.
So,
Sense of looking over your shoulder, did anyone see it? That's about it. What do you expect me to say?
Man, that's too bad. All right, Greg, what do you got?
Well, first, just listen to the guy's cadence. Look, in the last one, I was saying, well, maybe he's involved some way. Well, this cleans it up. Yeah, no. This guy, when you listen to this, first thing, chin down, throat protecting. Listen to his cadence drift off. He says, I would forget. He's trying to come up with a reason why he doesn't know where the body's at, and touches his face for the first time in every video we've seen. We usually associate that with trying to comfort self, and sometimes when we're thinking, but usually when you're doing something like it was bloody somewhere near, and then he progressively gives more and more vague detail. It was somewhere near football field. Well, 50 feet from a football field, 50 yards from a football field. Oh, by a pile of dirt. All progressively more vague and less disclosing. His blink rate as he's doing that is through the roof. Right here, you think he's making it up because everything's changing. And then my favorite part of the whole thing, he does none at all. And then his arms cross and he starts doing the kind of the chained elephant in his chair while denying he feels anything. He does lip compression at no foreboding. And then when she says, what do you expect me to say? Or when he says, what do you expect me to say? My notes, what I said is a lot less. It feels like you're negotiating and filling in the list of other feelings she hasn't considered. If you don't feel anything, you wouldn't be listing off the feelings that other people have because you don't know what they are. You've already told us that. So I think this is BS. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, the bits that I don't think are BS is his mockery of empathy. There's that. I'll just call it that mockery of empathy, and his resignation, that sigh that he does, this resignation to not having any feelings about this. Now, that's not to say he doesn't have any feelings whatsoever, but I would suggest they are so shallow and out of touch that for him, it just doesn't feel like he has feelings like are required for him. There's definitely a feeling of paranoia. I think the looking over your shoulder, that's a true feeling that he has. And, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're out to get you. And people would be out to get him many, many times. That's all I got on that one. Scott, what do you got?
I think this one's interesting because it's the first time we see him making one up on the fly. I think he's just got the opening and said, all right, here we go. And he's just telling the story. He's just making it up as he goes along. He starts adapting on his mouth. His illustrators are minimal, and his cadence is really fast. His tone is high. And he's got way too many additives to what he's talking about, way too many qualifiers. And those are actually late when he adds them. He's got too much strong eye contact, which is similar to some of the videos we've seen before. So I think he's just making this up. I don't think there's any big deal here. As far as the validity goes, I don't think there is any at this point. Chase, what do you got?
It's fake. Y'all got it all.
Okay. Well, that's a little technical, but I think what Chase is saying. All right. Well, let's go around the room and talk about what we think we've seen in about 30 seconds or less and wrap it up. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, great entertainer in the mold of all of those, gangland entertainers, where we are looking for the most socially unacceptable acts to hear about, to look at, to hear the stories of. And I think that's what he's trying to give us. Has he been involved in well, obviously we know he's been involved in extremely violent acts, that's for sure. And has he been involved in murders? Undoubtedly. Undoubtedly he has. Are they as he maps out in these? No, these are beautiful exaggerations for our entertainment. He's an entertainer. There's films about him. He's on 60 Minutes. He's an entertainer. Quite delightful in some ways. In some other ways, not at all. But that's the allotropic nature of it. You want to look and you want to look away. That's the bedlam. That's the horror of it. You know you shouldn't look, but you have to. Chase, what do you think?
Yeah, this is just a classic example of an emotionally stunted individual who wants to rewrite the past to make himself tougher. No doubt he's had a rough life. I'm sure he's involved in lots of criminal behavior, but so much of this is just false. The details that I believe are fabricated tell us a pretty sad story of a man who feels insignificant and weak. And this new diagnosis that he's dealing with right now might be a part of the reason for this need to rewrite, what went on in his life. I think there's a lot more to his behavior than whatever is causing the jaundice here, but it's a boy in a man's body who didn't grow up all the way, still wanting to gain respect through shock value and toughness. And I think it's a good reminder for all of us to just drop the mask more often and just live it out in front of our eyes when we're around people. And it's a good example of what it might look like when we're just behind our eyes trying to modify perceptions all the time. Greg?
Yeah, he might be a little boy, but he's a little monster of a little boy. He's done horrific things to people. The interesting piece is that he chose most of his violence to be against people who live outside society to start with, so they can't go get help. I mean, that's an interesting turn of events when a person is preying on other people who prey on other people. You might think of that as a hero until you hear some of the stuff he did. And then I think he's a Joe Pesci character. Joe Pesci in any criminal movie is over the top. Goodfellas, go watch it. Even the guys around him, he ends up getting killed because he's so crazy. And if you're making yourself out to be that crazy, you're grandizing in that environment. Remember, we're talking about Maslow. You want to be the baddest crazy there is. You just keep adding to it. Probably people just who knew him would know a lot of that, and you would get words from them. But then he became famous. And once people are famous, then you know that they're going to be aggrandized by people who knew them as well. So look, I think most of this is just bluster and an image and a stage act. Scott, what do you got?
Yeah, I think this is a great example of watching someone who has had, at the beginning of their life, it was fairly exciting because he was being violent, being a tough guy and all that. As he got older and got sick or started losing his health, he's, like you guys were saying, he's got to have a great ending for his third act. Is it 3 acts, Mark, or 4?
3.
Okay, so the ending of the third act has to be the big closer, as he said at the beginning when he was talking about that, the last picture show. So I think he knows that, and subconsciously he's playing all that out, trying to make himself look cooler, trying to make himself look tougher, because that's all he's got. He's leaving some books, some kids' books nobody's going to read, and I think that's all he's got, and a movie, and a
rap album.
Yeah, does he really?
It's not on Spotify, so it didn't hit big. So.
Oh, okay. So yeah. So I think that's what it is. I think it's just a poor old guy who was mean and has, like Mark was saying, he's got psychopathic tendencies. I don't think he's a psychopath, but I think he's a hardcore criminal, and I think he lived the life of that and paid the consequences of that. And now he's just a sad old man who's going to die a death probably alone. or when he died, he's probably alone. Gosh, how depressing to end something like that. But I'm sure things are better now for him.
Well, I'm sure that the Mad Charlie story is much more, joyous and upbeat. If we can find out what happened.
I'll try to find Mad Charlie. That'll be our future story.
that'll be the next
Scott, one. You went 1:20. That was not 30 seconds.
I'm sorry. Dang it. Sorry, man. I went on. But, oh, well. All right, fellas. Well, I think this was a good one, and we'll see you next time.
So what do you got?